Welcome back. Finding Your Feet is a star-studded comedy all about second chances. The film follows Lady Sandra Abbott as she tries to rebuild her life after discovering that her husband of 40 years has been having an affair with her best friend.
Yes, I caught up with the stars of stage and screen, Celia Imrie and Oscar-nominated Imelda Staunton, to chat about finding their feet in the acting world and appealing to an older audience. Have a look.
During my 4 decades, I've worked with some fantastic people. There's one very special person, my wife, Lady Sandra Abbott.
I've been planning our retirement for the last 35 years.
Celia, Imelda, a pleasure to meet you both here in London today. I absolutely loved the movie. And halfway through, I noticed that I was smiling at the screen.
Well, I love that you were sitting there smiling. I think that's adorable. But you know, the weird thing is that we very rarely see the film with an audience.
Okay.
So we don't necessarily... I mean, I would love to, at some point, just be sort of invisible and just sort of look along the rows. Because we don't know whether the jokes work necessarily until an audience sees it. We don't know how quiet they can be if they're really engaged. It's a very interesting thing. And the bizarre thing, because we're both used to theatre and the audience being there, and so you've got to measure.
And that instant reaction.
But what you said is thrilling, actually, that you had both.
Yeah,
that's what.
Because you catch yourself, don't you? Watching something and smiling to yourself. Obviously, I was sitting there on my own. It wasn't a situation where you go with friends. You know, it was in advance of an interview.
Were there other people there, though?
There were, but not beside me. So I was on my own, yet smiling to myself, which was lovely.
Yes.
It didn't feel like work, that's for sure. I want to ask you, Imelda, about the role of Sandra, as you say, Lady Sandra. That role is just an all too common role, isn't it? Where the woman builds up the great man and his career and completely forgets about her own identity. Are you expecting huge feedback from women all over on that particular role?
Well, that's a good question, because I think within the film, yes, there's a woman who has, you know, as you said, set him up to be the be-all and end-all.
Yes.
And her life hasn't meant that much. But then she goes on a journey.
Why don't you come to my dance class? It might cheer you up. How did your internet date go at the weekend?
Well, let's just say I got more than I bargained for.
Oh, lucky you.
No, he showed up with his wife in tow. Turns out I'd clicked swinging instead of swimming on my list of likes. I'm not like you, Biff. I can't just open up like a lotus flower.
And all you can say to people is, go on that journey. But then maybe something terrible had to happen in order for her to go on that journey. So I feel that you want to say to women, look and learn.
Absolutely. Because take inspiration.
Yeah, yeah. Don't sit there and take that.
And you know what's so refreshing looking at this movie is the leading ladies aren't 25. And the man, there isn't this gigantic age gap.
No.
Which, from a female point of view, I think regardless of what age you are, you look at that gap and think that's just infuriating.
Yes.
Isn't it that they have this 60-year-old man with this 30, 40-year-old woman? Yeah. And that's not the case in this movie. Do you think that's the way forward?
Yeah, I mean, we're all grown-ups in this film, you know,
yes.
We're not pretending. And also, you know, that whole thing about men needing younger women to make themselves feel younger, you know, you think, no, why don't you just be with someone who's equal, who makes you feel sort of the same.
Okay.
It doesn't, or do they have to make you feel young? What is the obsession with feeling young?
Yeah.
And always, you know, to look your age. But, you know, even if you're, I think everyone says, you know, we're all older, but we all feel 18, 19. I mean, that's what everyone says, because it's true.
It's
cliches,
universal. Yeah.
Because it's true. But I think on film, particularly, it's always that way around, isn't it? I mean, there has been, you know,
Film stars
Don't Die in Liverpool. So with gorgeous Annette Bening and Jamie Bell, you know, that's a wonderful relationship and a one-off.
A one-off. You were able to mention exactly what you were talking about,
just
Imelda, with one movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a movie, Celia, about betrayal, about the relationship between sisters, about loads of things, about second chances, but ultimately it's about people, isn't it? About human behaviour.
I know. It's very clever the way it encompasses so much of just really ordinary life and subjects that we come across. There's something rather marvellous about sharing a history of the world. Like, for instance, Imelda and I met years and years ago, so we've been through having our children together, things that happened in the world we understand. Yes. And actually, if there's a 30-year age gap, what do they talk about, I wonder?
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually.
But anyway, it's nothing to... The age thing is very incidental here.
30 minutes and I'll be good to go.
I'll get you there in 10.
Gerald? Gerald? He was a lovely fella.
Before I run out of time, between you there is a long list of awards. Laurence Olivier Awards, BAFTAs, an Oscar nomination. Imelda, in my house, for my 2 little boys, you are the horrible fiancé and you are the loud chef in Nanny McPhee. Aww. That's what you guys mean in my house. So they're not even at the Harry Potter stage yet. But you two and your faces are so familiar to my little boys for those roles. And they mean so much. We watch that film over and over again.
Yeah,
I'm probably more familiar with it than you guys are.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
So thank you for taking the time today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got my sister back.
Stunning.
Thank you.
Oh, I meant the view.